I never thought the man I had loved for 15 years would be the one to leave me standing in the ruins of our life, holding nothing but a broken heart and a stack of legal papers. It was a Tuesday afternoon, the kind where the light filters through the curtains just right. The same curtains I had picked out with him on one of our happy weekend shopping trips. I was in the kitchen, stirring the sauce for his favorite pasta, humming softly like I always did when the front door opened and he walked in with that folder in his hand. "We need to talk," he said, his voice flat, like he was reading from a script he had practiced in the mirror. He slid the papers across the table. Divorce. He wanted everything: the house we built together, the cars, the business we started from scratch, every penny in our accounts. "It's fair," he added, not even looking at me. "I carried us for years." My legs gave out. I sank into the chair, the room spinning, my chest tightening until I could barely breathe. 15 years. 15 years of believing we were a team, partners in every sense of the word. How did we get here? Let me take you back, because to understand the pain, you have to feel the love first. We met in our mid-20s at a small gallery opening in the city. I was there with my sketchbook, dreaming of turning my designs into something real. He was the confident guy in the suit, talking numbers and opportunities. His smile lit up the whole room, and when he asked for my number, I felt like the luckiest woman alive. Our first date was simpler: walk along the river, coffee in paper cups, talking until the stars came out. "You have this fire in you," he told me. "Together we could build anything." I believed him. I still do, in a way, even after everything. We got married 2 years later in a quiet ceremony by the lake we both loved. The sun was setting behind the trees, painting everything in soft pinks and golds. I wore a simple white dress, nothing fancy, because we wanted it to feel like us. As I walked toward him, my hands trembling, he whispered, "You're my forever." Those words wrapped around my heart and stayed there through every hard day that followed. We bought our first home the next year, a cozy 2-story with a backyard garden where I planted roses every spring. I put my own design career on hold to support him while he chased promotions. I cooked, I cleaned, I listened to his dreams late into the night. Then, 5 years in, we took the leap and started our business. I created the products: beautiful, eco-friendly home goods, candles that smelled like home, textiles woven with care, decor that turned houses into sanctuaries. He handled the finances, the marketing, the deals. It was our baby. We worked side by side at the kitchen table for months, laughing when orders came in, celebrating with cheap wine when the first big client signed on. The business grew faster than we ever imagined. Within a few years, it was bringing in real money, enough for the nicer cars, the vacations to places we had only dreamed about, the life everyone on the outside envied. I remember one summer evening on the deck, the two of us watching the sunset, his arm around me. "We did this together," he said, and I leaned into him, feeling safe, loved, complete. Those were the days I replay in my mind when the nights get too dark. I sacrificed so much late nights alone while he traveled for work, putting my own ideas on the back burner because his vision felt like ours. I never minded. Love does that. It makes you give without keeping score. But slowly, so slowly, I almost missed it. The cracks started to appear. He began staying later at the office. "Big deal closing," he'd say, kissing my cheek quickly before disappearing. His phone would light up at dinner, and he'd step outside to answer, his voice low. I told myself it was nothing. Stress. The business demanding more. I cooked extra meals, planned surprise weekends, tried to pull him closer. One night I found a receipt in his jacket for 2 coffees at a cafe I had never been to. I asked gently. He snapped, "Why are you always so suspicious?" His words cut deep, but I swallowed the hurt. I convinced myself I was overthinking. The distance grew anyway. Conversations became short. Touches became rare. I would lie awake listening to his breathing, wondering when the man I married had started feeling like a stranger in our own bed. Then came the day everything shattered. The divorce papers. The cold list of demands. He wanted the house I had decorated room by room. The cars we picked out together. The business I had poured my creative soul into. Our savings, every last cent. "You'll be fine," he said as he packed a bag that same night. "You always land on your feet." I begged him to explain. Was there someone else? Had I done something wrong? He just shook his head and walked out, leaving me alone in the silence that used to be filled with our laughter. The next weeks were a blur of tears and emptiness. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep without waking up gasping from nightmares of our life disappearing. Friends called, trying to comfort me, but their words felt hollow. "He's not worth it," they said. But he was my world, my everything. The court dates loomed like storm clouds, and I felt so small, so powerless. I sat in that empty house night after night, replaying every memory, searching for the moment it all went wrong. The pain was so deep, it felt like it would swallow me whole. Shattered, broken, exposed. That's how I felt, like every piece of me had been laid bare and taken. But even in that darkness, there was something I had never told him. A quiet decision I made years ago, right when the business was just starting to grow. A safety net I tucked away in my own name, never mentioning it because I trusted us completely. I didn't know then how much I would need it. I didn't know that my heartbreak was only the beginning of a story that would turn everything upside down. He took it all, but he had no idea what he was really taking, and what was coming next would change both our lives forever. The days after he left blurred into one long ache. I would wake up reaching for him, only to remember the empty side of the bed, and the divorce papers still sitting on the kitchen counter like a wound that wouldn't close. The house felt too big, too quiet. Every corner held a memory, the spot where we danced in the living room after our first big sale. The garden where I taught him how to plant tomatoes that first summer. Now it all felt like a lie. I tried to hold myself together for the court meetings, but inside I was crumbling. Friends stopped by with casseroles and kind words, but none of them could touch the betrayal that sat heavy in my chest. "He's been different for months," one said gently. I nodded, but I didn't want to hear it. I still loved the man I thought he was. Then the truth started to drip out, one painful piece at a time. The first court hearing was brutal. His lawyer listed every asset like it was already his. Our business, the one I had designed from the ground up, was suddenly his vision. He claimed he had funded it all, even though I had put in the late night sketching, the weekends sourcing materials, the heart that made our products special. I sat there in the stiff wooden chair, my hands shaking, trying to speak up, but my voice came out small. "We built it together," I whispered. The judge nodded politely, but the look on Mark's face was cold, almost triumphant. He had hired the best team money could buy, money from our joint accounts. Of course, I could barely afford a lawyer who would listen. That night I drove around the city for hours, tears blurring the streetlights. How had I missed the signs? The late nights weren't just work. A mutual friend finally told me what everyone else already knew: he had been seeing someone from the office for over a year. The assistant who always smiled too wide at company parties. The one who traveled with him on those business trips. The betrayal cut deeper than the money. It wasn't just things he took. It was the trust I had given so freely. I felt exposed, like every intimate moment we had shared was now cheapened and thrown away. I stopped eating properly. Sleep became a stranger. I would sit on the floor of our old bedroom, clutching the wedding photo, whispering, "How could you?" to the man who wasn't there. The legal battle dragged on for months. Every hearing stripped away another piece of me. He fought for the house, arguing I had no contribution beyond decorating. He wanted the business outright, claiming my designs were company property under his control. I watched him sit across the table, calm and collected, while I fought back tears. One afternoon his lawyer slipped up and mentioned a new account I had never heard of. Money moved out of our savings right before he filed. Hidden, deliberate. I felt sick. The man I had trusted with everything had been planning this while. I was still cooking his dinners and believing we could fix whatever was wrong. I hit the lowest point one rainy evening. I stood in the shower until the water ran cold, sobbing so hard my body shook. Everything I had worked for gone. The business that was supposed to be our legacy was slipping through my fingers. I thought about giving up, signing whatever he wanted just to make the pain stop. But something inside me shifted that night. A quiet voice whispered that I deserved more than this. I had given everything, and I wasn't going to disappear quietly. I started researching quietly at the library, using free computers so he couldn't track anything. I spoke to a new lawyer, one who specialized in protecting creative contributions. Slowly, the fog lifted just enough for me to see a path. I remembered the secret I had kept all those years ago, a separate account in my maiden name. Small investments I had made from my own freelance money before we were married. Untouched and never mentioned because I trusted our partnership completely. I had also quietly registered the core designs and patents under my personal name. A precaution I took when the business first exploded, thinking it would protect us. He never knew. He never asked. The emotional struggle was the hardest part. Some days I still loved the memory of him. Other days the anger burned so hot I could barely breathe. I journaled every night, pouring out the hurt, the betrayal, the shattered dreams. I stopped hiding from friends and told them the full story. Their support gave me strength I didn't know I had. I started walking every morning, feeling the sun on my face, reminding myself I was still here. The shift from pain to quiet strength happened slowly. I stopped crying in the courtroom. I started speaking up, calmly, clearly. I gathered every email, every receipt, every record that showed my contribution. The betrayal had broken me, but it also woke me up. I realized I had been carrying the weight of our life alone for longer than I wanted to admit. Now I was ready to carry my own future, but what I didn't know then was how perfectly my secret would line up with his greed. He thought he had taken everything. He thought he had won. The court dates kept coming, and with each one I felt a little taller, a little more in control. The pain was still there, raw and real, but it no longer defined me. It fueled me. He had exposed his true self, and in doing so, he had given me the clarity I needed to fight back not with anger, but with the quiet truth I had protected all along. The midpoint of this nightmare was the darkest, but it was also the turning point. My heart was still healing, yet my mind was already planning the next chapter. He never saw it coming because I never let him see me coming back. The final court hearing arrived on a clear spring morning, the kind that makes you believe new beginnings are possible. I walked into the room with my head high, folders neatly organized, my new lawyer beside me. Mark sat across the table, confident as ever, expecting another easy win. His lawyer began the usual speech about how he had built the business single-handedly, how I had simply supported from home. I listened without flinching. Then it was my turn. I stood up and spoke clearly, without tears this time. I laid out every receipt, every design sketch with my original timestamps, every email where I had led product development. And then I revealed the part he never knew existed, the separate account, the patents filed in my name years ago. The quiet investments that had grown steadily, because I had always believed in protecting what I created. The room went silent. Mark's face changed from smug to shocked in seconds. His lawyer scrambled, but the evidence was ironclad. The judge reviewed the documents and ruled in my favor on the core assets. The business patents stayed with me. The hidden account he had tried to claim was untouched and legally mine. Suddenly, the man who thought he had taken everything realized he had only taken what I had already decided to let go. The house would be sold and the proceeds split fairly. The cars went into the settlement, but the heart of our company, the designs, the brand identity, the future was now mine to rebuild on my own terms. He tried to fight it in the weeks that followed, calling me late at night, his voice cracking for the first time. "How could you hide this from me?" he asked, almost pleading. I answered calmly, "You never asked. You only took." The business he thought he controlled began to crumble without my creative direction. Clients who loved the original designs started reaching out to me directly. I quietly started a new venture from a small rented studio, using the protected patents and the money from my secret account. Word spread in our industry. The man who had betrayed me was suddenly the one exposed. His reputation took a hit as former employees whispered about the way he had handled things. He lost key contracts. The lifestyle he had fought so hard for started slipping away. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The revenge wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, precise, and complete. He had taken everything he could see, but he had never seen the strength I had protected deep inside. Within 6 months, my new company was growing again, smaller but truly mine. I moved into a modest apartment, planted new roses on a tiny balcony, and for the first time in years, I felt peace. The shattered pieces were coming back together, stronger than before. Looking back now, I sit here with a cup of tea, watching the sunset the way we used to, and I feel a gentle closure. The betrayal destroyed the life I thought I had, but it freed me to build the life I deserved. He never saw my secret revenge coming, because it wasn't about hurting him, it was about saving myself. If there's one lesson I want to leave with you, it's this. Sometimes the deepest pain reveals the strongest parts of you. Trust is beautiful, but self-trust is everything. When someone takes everything, remember that the most valuable things can never be taken unless you let them go. I let him take the surface so I could protect the core. And in the end, I found my way back to me whole, peaceful, and finally free. The storm is over. The sun is rising again. And that, more than any victory, is the real justice.